The wind made the night feel heavier and harsher as it shook the Flagstaff storage shed's thin metal walls. Moving like a shadow within, Robyn Brown looked over her shoulder every few seconds. A tiny flashlight was clenched between her teeth, its beam darting across a heavy combination locker in the corner, and her hair was tucked behind a baseball cap. Her lips whispered in a voice only she could hear as her fingers manipulated the lock with skilled motions. "Come on, Caleb, just like you showed me." She turned the dial once more, the metal creaking beneath her fingers, till finally the mechanism clicked in a pleasing manner. A peculiar exhilaration mixed with the adrenaline, causing her chest to rise and fall rapidly. The envelopes were neatly piled and labeled with dates and months in Cody's distinctive handwriting as the door flung open. Her heart raced when she noticed that some of them had additional markings in marker, such as Coyote Pass payments, utilities, and emergency fund. Hey, hello everybody, welcome back to my channel TLC Flicks. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up. She grabbed 3 heavy bundles from within and stuffed them inside her purse. With a slight smirk on her lips, she took out her phone and took a picture of the combination before shutting the locker. After closing the door and turning the lock, she slid out into the cold and vanished into Flagstaff's shadowy streets. When Cody arrived at the shed the following morning, his boots crunched on the gravel. His voice was low and annoyed as he murmured something about down payments. He slammed the door open, spun the lock combination, and then froze. His fingers fumbled through the stacks as his eyes flitted from envelope to envelope. The shed seemed to lose its air. "What?" he yelled, and the sound reverberated off the metal walls. "Where is the remainder of it?" He was furious by the time he stormed into Janelle's kitchen later that morning. He rushed through the door as she was drinking coffee. "Janelle, someone stole from me." It wasn't a stranger either. With a doubtful expression on her face, she cocked her head slightly. "This was inside my locker. Are you certain you didn't simply spend money and forget about it?" Cody gave her a look that would have made steel melt. "Do I appear to have forgotten thousands of dollars?" She simply gave the cameras a knowing, deliberate glance without responding. Later, Cody was summoned into a tiny office by a TLC producer who played security footage from the storage shed. The screen flickered with grainy black and white images. There was a figure approaching the locker. Cody leaned forward, inhaling loudly and with a taut face. The person then slightly moved in the direction of the camera, revealing the sweep of the bangs and the curve of the jaw. It could not be mistaken. Robyn, putting on that baseball cap. Cody opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out. Robyn sat rigidly in the chair with her fists gripped tightly in her lap as the camera cut to her lone interview. "Look, Cody has been distracted lately," she said, her eyes watery. "I've been lonesome, and I just wanted to have a good night when I found someone who genuinely listened to me and cared. Is it really a crime?" The editors stopped her sobbing face in front of the screen full of tabloid stories about her secret boyfriend and the stolen money as her voice broke on the final syllable. Then came a string of grainy phone footage. Robyn at a dark restaurant, leaning across the table at a tall man wearing a leather jacket. Her palm brushed his as she laughed, a gleam of giddiness in her eyes. He once passed a small object across the table, possibly a present, and she smiled shyly down at it. Cody couldn't control his anger when he confronted her at her home. He tossed the surveillance still prints onto the coffee table. "For some dude, you broke into my locker?" Robyn's voice wavered, but it was anger rather than fear. "Cody, you don't understand. For months, you have been neglecting me while pursuing real estate transactions. I felt alive again because of him." His mouth clenched. "By taking my cash?" Venom crackled in the air between them. At last, Cody turned and rushed out, causing a picture frame to tumble to the floor as the door smashed against the wall. Mary reclined back in her chair during her own interview, a small smile on her lips. She remarked quietly, "Karma is a funny thing." She pretended to be the victim for years. Right now, everyone's attention is on her. The cameras then went dark, leaving just the rumble of a developing scandal and the assurance that the mystery man would not remain a secret for very long. 2 days later, the first murmurs were heard. Outside a late-night coffee shop in downtown Flagstaff, a barista vowed she had seen Robyn holding hands with a tall guy who wasn't Cody. A hazy cell phone shot appeared online the next morning. Even if the man's face was partially hidden, rumors may be sparked by the sharp line of his jaw and the faint tattoo curling just beneath his sleeve cuff. Since the altercation, Cody has not communicated with Robyn. With his phone buzzing with incoming texts from TLC executives, he was pacing Janelle's living room with the shades partially drawn and grumbling to himself. Janelle, they are aware. The supporters. The media. It is present everywhere. It's public humiliation, not just embarrassing. Janelle sat at the counter and silently watched him fall apart. You're only now understanding what it's like to be betrayed? Without raising her eyes from her coffee, she inquired quietly. Meanwhile, there was tension at Robyn's residence. She was seen on camera breathing irregularly while seated at the dining room table with her phone facing down. Then there was a crisp, purposeful knock. She looked toward the hallway and froze. She stood up slowly and opened the door. The dude from the restaurant was there. He took off his leather jacket and entered. Caleb was his name, and when he smiled, Robyn's face lit up with a warmth that had not been seen in years. They conversed quietly while seated together in the living room. The microphone captured pieces. I didn't want you to get involved in this. Robyn, I'm already in it. I'm not hiding. She kept her hand on his. She explained to him that she had stolen the money from Cody's locker because she couldn't bear the idea of having to count change again just to go out. Caleb's face remained unwavering. He leaned near and added, "You did it for us." Before the producer cleared their throat in the background, the camera operator's lens zoomed in and captured the near kiss. The fan base was rocked by the revelation. Overnight, Robyn's mystery man, who is he, became the most popular search term on social media. It turned up old Facebook pictures of Caleb standing next to a motorcycle with a woman's arm around his waist that wasn't Robyn's. There were a ton of speculations, accusations, and amateur detective work in the comment section. Cody silently raged as he watched it all happen. He leaned forward in his one-on-one interview, his voice trembling. She did more than simply embezzle my money. She joked with me, to my family, to the planet. The camera jolted when he slapped his fist against the armrest. And she did it smiling. When Mary, of all people, chose to stir things up, the tension reached a breaking point. She invited Robyn and Cody to her inn for a mediated sit-down. Cody appeared first, his mouth hard, shoulders squared, cameras rolling. A few minutes later, Robyn came in, followed closely by Caleb. The space seems to vanish in an instant. Cody growled low in his throat. "You brought him here?" Robyn's hands were shaking, but she was standing tall. "You might as well look him in the eye if you're going to accuse me." Caleb took a step forward without flinching. "Cody, I'm not trying to hide from you. I didn't ever take anything from you. You stopped providing her one, so she took what she needed to survive." Like a sword, the words hung in the air. With quiet satisfaction, Mary sipped her tea and watched the pandemonium she had just unleashed. Cody pushed his chair back and stood over Caleb as the play came to a close. One cameraman nearly tripped on a cable as the crew scurried around. Before hurriedly leaving, Cody spat, "This isn't over." Caleb's hand returned to Robyn's, and her eyes gleamed. The sound of an unfinished storm could be heard outside as the wind increased and rattled the windows. Rain was streaming down the windshield as Cody sat by himself in his truck the night following the unfortunate encounter at Mary's Inn. In the dark, the screen of his phone gleamed, revealing an old contact list filled with names he had shunned for years. At last, he raised the phone to his ear and tapped one. A rough voice replied, "Yeah, it's Cody," he added. "I need to know. On a person called Caleb." A pause. "He's been around my wife." "No, I want it all." The Flagstaff gossip mill sprang to life as Cody prepared his silent trap. Caleb was more than simply an enigmatic stranger. People began discussing things like a brief landscaping firm that failed due to financial irregularities, an unpaid tab at a biker club north of Phoenix, and rumors of a criminal past. TLC producers set up a sit-down with Robyn and Caleb in a park the following afternoon. Robyn's hand rested on his leg as they sat closely together on a bench, their knees touching. The producer leaned in after the initial gentle queries. "Have you ever been arrested, Caleb?" It was a brief but fatal pause. He looked down and let out a breath. "Yes, once. Many years ago. For ownership. I wasn't feeling well, but I'm over that now." Glaring at the camera, Robyn gave his hand a protective squeeze, perhaps daring them to push harder. The producers, however, took care to slow down the video and moved to Robyn's face immediately following his admission. There was a glimmer of what appeared to be fear rather than shock or rage. Cody, meantime, had received his response. Late at night, he called Janelle in a low, desperate voice. "Janelle, the man has a record. And not just a small one: possession, theft, and fraud. For years, he has been in and out of trouble. And she's out there supporting him as if he were a hero." Janelle listened silently, already figuring out how serious this could get. At last, she replied, "You realize that this isn't just about you anymore. The entire show could be ruined by this." It took place 2 days later. Every tabloid and gossip website took up the story within hours after TMZ broke it first. Robyn Brown's new man has criminal past, sister wives in turmoil. With every refresh, the headlines become more scathing. Robyn Brown's covert relationship with her ex-con, TLC faces criticism for withholding boyfriend's records. Cody's wife embezzled money for a criminal lover. TLC was under tremendous strain. According to anonymous sources, the network was thinking of putting the show on hiatus until the controversy subsided. Executive producers called emergency meetings, and emails were leaked. Caleb, however, was not about to back down. When he went live on Instagram, the comments section was immediately overflowing. His tone was calm yet threatening as he gazed into the camera. "You're looking for the truth? Cody isn't a saint. He has been playing the victim, lying to his wives, and hiding money. The only person who ever saw through him was Robyn. Yes, I do have a past. However, I'm at least not hiding who I am." Within hours, the video became viral. Something snapped inside Cody when he saw it. Does he wish to act shady? "All right," he mumbled, reaching for his coat. "When I bring the law into this, we'll see how he responds." He brought a folder full of documentation, including surveillance footage, bank data, and a written statement accusing Robyn of stealing, to the Flagstaff Police Department that evening. News teams were outside Robyn's house by sunrise. Caleb was pacing the kitchen while she stood inside, holding her phone. "They're coming for me," she murmured, her voice breaking. And Cody was sitting in his truck once more, this time grinning outside, someplace across town. The following morning, Robyn's peaceful street was illuminated by the flashing red and blue lights. 2 cop cars sat idling outside her house, and neighbors looked in through the curtains. With his leather jacket half on, half off, Caleb stood in the living room, pacing like an animal in a cage. Robyn stood at the kitchen table, her knuckles white from holding her phone so hard. There was a strong, authoritative knock. After taking a deep breath, she opened the door. There were 2 officers, one with a clipboard. "Robyn Brown?" She gave a nod. "Mr. Cody Brown reported an incident involving stolen funds, and we have some questions about it." The precise moment her shoulders slumped was captured on camera. With her eyes flitting to Caleb, she blurted out, "I didn't steal anything. It was money from the marriage. Simply put, I borrowed it." She was not yet arrested by the authorities. However, they gave her a summons to come in the following day to be questioned. Caleb's voice sounded piercing as the door shut. "They want to frighten you." His tone hardened as he came closer. "You can't let them. I'll make sure everyone is aware of him if they push this." Caleb took the initiative later that afternoon. He contacted a contact at a standalone YouTube gossip channel that focused on unearthing old videos and behind-the-scenes information. In a 45-minute expose titled "The Real Cody Brown: Secret Accounts, Hidden Deals, and How He Manipulates His Wives," which aired on the channel, Caleb sat in the background but spoke clearly as he related stories Robyn had told him about cash deals, illegal property trades, and how Cody allegedly maintained several bank accounts that his other wives were unaware of. The video had received over 1 million views by the evening. Demanding answers, fans deluged TLC's social media accounts. The sponsors started calling. A small group of executives discussed sister wives' future in a heated conference room at TLC headquarters. Robyn's issue might be turned into a ratings goldmine, according to one producer. Another retorted that retaining her would mean losing all advertising. 2 folders with the labels Season 20 Robyn included and Season 20 Robyn removed were placed in the center of the table. Robyn was sitting at her dining table in Flagstaff, sipping a cup of tea that she hadn't yet touched. Smirking at the mayhem he had let loose online, Caleb was browsing through his phone. "You see?" He uttered those words. "They're in a panic. Robyn, that's power." Robyn, however, didn't appear comforted. She appeared to be exhausted. "Caleb, you don't get it. Cody is no longer the only focus of this. This is my life. My children." My standing Cody made an appearance in his own live stream that evening while seated in a poorly lit room. He spoke in a quiet, purposeful tone. "You're playing with the wrong family, Caleb. Without even touching them, I've defeated stronger guys than you. And Robyn," he paused for a moment before concluding, "you've made up your mind." The following day, Caleb was contacted by police for the first time, but it was about him rather than Cody's charges. He was accused of sending threatening messages to a TLC producer, according to a report. No longer was the storm merely circling. It was right above. Robyn donned a modest shirt, a soft, non-threatening cardigan, and her hair curled just enough to frame her face on the morning of her police summons. Caleb detested it. He mumbled from the couch as he put on his boots, "You look like you're going to a church bake sale." She spoke fiercely, her voice quivering slightly beneath the surface. "I'm going to convince them I'm not a criminal. One day, you might want to give it a try." The air at the station had a subtle scent of antiseptic and old coffee. Robyn was escorted by a female investigator into a tiny interview room with a single table and beige walls. With a gentle click, the camera above the entrance came to life. The investigator started off by asking her courteous questions, such as how long she had been married to Cody, when she had last entered the storage shed, and whether she had authorization to remove the money. Robyn gave thoughtful, practiced responses. Then, however, the tone changed. "Investigator, Mrs. Your husband says the money was intended for property payments, Brown. Do you mean that you were unaware of the purpose of the funds?" "Robyn, I knew," Robyn said. "However, all of the money is marital. It's not just his money." "Detective, you're acknowledging that you took it even though you knew it wasn't for your use?" Her throat constricted. As though the world was already watching, she cast a quick peek at the camera in the corner. "Because I had to, I took it. Because when I ask, nobody pays attention." Caleb sat with his arms folded in the lobby outside, scowling at each officer that went by. A text message from an unidentified number buzzed through his phone. "Be careful among strangers. Cody isn't playing a bluff." "Neither am I," Caleb texted back, grinning. Then something changed that afternoon. Caleb shared a picture of Cody's truck parked outside what appeared to be a storage unit on social media with the message, "Nice to know where you hide things, old man." Within minutes of the post becoming viral, both haters and fans were guessing about its contents. The boardroom at TLC was in disarray. Sponsor emails poured in quickly, with some threatening to withhold funds if Caleb's harassment persisted. And executives struck the table with their fist. "We've had enough of dancing about this. She can't stay with us. Not in the photo with him." Robyn received the news from her producer on a private phone call that evening. For the upcoming season, her contract would not be extended. She was done, but they would air the remaining film they had. After the call, Robyn sat quietly and gazed at the wall. Unaware of the destruction he had recently contributed to, Caleb was humming while brewing coffee in the kitchen. At last she spoke something. "They let me go." Unfazed, he raised his head. "All right. You are not in need of them. I'm with you." However, her expression at the time, that gradual dawning insight, was not one of consolation. It was the expression of someone who was unsure if she had simply exchanged one domineering male for another. Cody also received the call from across town. He made no effort to conceal his smile. Caleb's response to the TLC dismissal was not merely indifferent. Rather, it was exuberant. Sitting at the kitchen table like a man who had just won something, he poured himself a glass of whiskey. With a swirl of the glass, he declared, "You are now free from them. Robyn, you were being used, similar to what Cody did." Something tightened inside Robyn as she faked a grin. She had anticipated that he would be protective and upset for her. Rather, he appeared to be happy. His actions changed throughout the course of the following few days. Suddenly, he became very curious in her financial situation, asking where her funds were, how much she had been paid for previous seasons, and whether she had access to any money left over from Cody. She dismissed it as curiosity at first, but his inquiries persisted, getting more pointed each time. So you suppose there's more in that storage locker Cody has? What about the accounts you used to receive payment from TLC? Are the logins still with you? Really, Robyn, you owe him nothing. You ought to take care of yourself. She discovered him searching through an old file drawer in her office one evening. He didn't even appear ashamed. He shrugged, as if it were no great deal, and added, "Just looking for some bank info." Robyn laid in bed that night, staring at the ceiling, mentally reliving the events of the previous month, the money that had been taken, the dates at the restaurant, the turmoil with Cody, the police, and the dismissal. All of the threads pointed back to Caleb. Cody, meanwhile, was also digging. The report from the private investigator he had hired was worse than he had anticipated. Caleb had a history of courting financially troubled women, earning their trust, then depleting their resources before going missing. He had even been charged in one instance with intimidating a woman into not filing charges. This was not something Cody kept to himself. Within hours of his calling Mary and Janelle, word began to spread around the Brown family. On the phone, Janelle informed Mary, she doesn't see it yet, but it's going to hit her hard when she does. A week later, Robyn's debit card was denied at the grocery shop, which marked a turning point. She was perplexed when she looked at her account on her phone in the parking lot and saw that it was almost empty. Over the previous 5 days, a number of sizable payments had been made to an account she was unfamiliar with. Her heart was racing as she sped home. Caleb was watching TV on the couch. Robyn, Caleb, where's my money? Caleb, calm down. I shifted it. With me, it's safer. Robyn, more secure? I own the account. Ours, said Caleb. Remember, we are a team. Without me, you wouldn't even have the courage to confront Cody. Her gut twisted at the way he said it. This was control, not collaboration. After Caleb went to sleep that night, Robyn sat by herself in the dark with her phone in her hand. She thought about phoning Cody for the first time in years, not to make amends but to request assistance. Cody's phone flashed up with an unfamiliar number across town. The voicemail that followed was shaky, nearly mumbled, but he didn't respond. It's me, Cody. I believe I have erred. I believe I am in danger. Until dawn, Cody's voicemail remained unanswered. By that time, Robyn was already navigating her own home with caution so as not to agitate Caleb. She could tell he was in a certain mood by the way he paced, checked his phone every few minutes, and moved restlessly. She had a strategy. While he was out on one of his errands, she would stealthily pack a bag, sneak out, and go somewhere safe, perhaps to stay with her sister in St. George. However, Caleb's voice could be heard from the doorway as she silently unzipped her luggage in the bedroom. Are you going somewhere? Robyn's hand remained on the handle as she froze. I just decided to spend a few days with my sister. I need to clear my head. Shutting the door behind him, he entered the room. Robyn, you don't require room. You must be loyal. Please don't abandon me now that I've done so much for you. She took a deep breath. Caleb, you've stolen my money. I've been used by you. He had a thin, icy smile. I've been keeping you safe. You're just Cody's cast-off wife, sobbing on reality TV without me. I told you a fresh tale, and until I tell otherwise, you will remain here. Her phone buzzed downstairs, a text message from an unidentified number saying, meet me at the corner store at noon if you want to go out. Come by yourself. Although she didn't know who sent it, she had a gut feeling that it wasn't Caleb. The hours that followed were oppressive. Caleb followed her around from room to room, hardly leaving her side. She once pulled back into the bathroom to catch her breath, clutching the counter while gazing at her image. Her eyes appeared harsher and older. She informed Caleb that she would get milk for the children at noon. After giving her a lengthy look, he answered, All right. Don't take too long, though. She snatched up her keys with shaking hands and slid out the door. Her heart was racing as she drove to the local grocery. At the far end of the lot was a black SUV. When the window rolled down, Cody appeared, appearing more solemn than she had seen him in a long time. Climb in, he said. We're running out of time. Caleb saw her car go away down the street from the window of the house. He clenched his jaw. He took out his phone and dialed. "She's moving," he remarked. "And I believe that she is going to him." There was a low, strange voice on the other end. "Then you are aware of what to do." It was a frightening journey in Cody's SUV. With her arms crossed over her chest and her gaze flitting between the road ahead and the rearview mirror, Robyn sat in the passenger seat. She felt a weight in the air, like if danger was only a breath away, but she wasn't sure if Caleb had followed her. Cody's voice was harsh as he replied, "You shouldn't have stayed with him this long." The horrible news about the individual. "For months, I've been hearing rumors about him. Dubious transactions, people who vanish, and now you? I'm glad I learned about it before things became worse." Staring out the window was Robyn. "Cody, you have no idea what it's like to feel totally alone. I felt like I was seen by him. I didn't believe anybody else was interested." Cody's grip tightened over the steering wheel. "I was concerned. I still do. However, caring now entails keeping you alive." They veered off the main highway and headed toward a remote location where Cody occasionally filmed interviews. The cabin was modest and hidden behind dense trees, making it nearly impossible to see from the road. Robyn recognized how remote it was as they pulled in. "Remain inside," Cody commanded. "Refrain from answering the door. I will determine our next course of action." He shut the cabin door after leaving her with a burner phone. Caleb, meantime, was already moving. His jaw was squeezed so tightly it hurt as his pickup ripped down back roads. He had examined all but one of Robyn's potential destinations. He recalled how she had casually brought up Cody's secret filming spot at one point. He squinted his eyes. He pulled over and called again. He said in the same low, strange voice as before, "I know where she is. But I'm not requesting permission this time." The other person's voice laughed. "Take the necessary action. Make sure she doesn't speak, please." In the late afternoon, Robyn was sitting on the cottage couch and cradling her knees. She jumped at every squeak of the hardwood planks. The silence in the forest beyond seemed excessive, as if it were holding its breath. Then she heard it. Tires on gravel. Slow. Intentional. Her blood ran cold when she peered through the blinds. Caleb's vehicle. The front door handle rattled before she could reach for the phone. Caleb spoke out in a low, almost enticing voice. "Robyn, be open. Let's have a conversation. You do not wish for me to enter." Robyn realized then that she might never be able to leave if he entered. Grasping the burner phone, she inhaled deeply. Calling Cody or calling the cops was her only option. Robyn nearly dropped the burner phone because her hands were shaking so much. Outside, Caleb's voice remained low but persistent, as if he was attempting to soothe her down so she would open the door. "Robyn, you're making things more difficult than they have to be. Allow me to enter, and we can resolve this. It's just you and me." Her stomach churned. He had always drew her back in with that tone, which was lovely on the outside but had a sharp undertone. She dialed 911 this time. The dispatcher spoke in a composed tone. "What emergency do you have?" Robyn stumbled. My ex," as she looked through the slats at Caleb's shifting silhouette on the porch. "He's deadly, and he's outside. I'm confined, but I'm not sure how long." The door shook violently. She suppressed a scream. "He's attempting to enter." Caleb looked over his shoulder outside. "Nobody is in the area. Not a witness." "Excellent." He took a thin crowbar from his jacket pocket. "If you knew where to shove, you could push your way into the ancient cabin in less than a minute." Robyn felt her heart slam against her ribs at the first crack of splintering wood. The buzzing of Cody's phone was 15 miles away. The burner number was that one. Robyn spoke in rough snatches. "Cody, he's here. He's breaking in." As Cody spun onto the gravel road, his truck tires squealed. "Remain hidden." "I'm nearly there." The lock finally broke inside the cabin. There was a shaft of frigid air as the door opened a few inches. The form of Caleb filled the doorway, his eyes burning with a mixture of anger and treachery, yet his face was unreadable. He remarked softly as he entered, "Robyn, you shouldn't have fled from me." As Robyn retreated toward the distant wall, she struggled to find a weapon, eventually wrapping her hand around a large iron fireplace poker. Cody's headlights pierced the trees from the road. Near the porch, he could make out Caleb's pickup parked at an angle. His gut told him to go right in, but he had no idea what he was getting himself into. The jungle was filled with the sound of sirens in the distance. Caleb looked inside. "Did you call the police?" His voice became icy and lethal. "Very bad." He made a lunge. Robyn used all of her adrenaline and dread to swing the poker. Let us know in your comments. And stay tuned by subscribing our channel to get more updates like this. Thanks everyone.